We are recording. Joachim?
Sure. Yeah. If nobody's around. Welcome, everyone. This is the general Zoom session, and we're talking about the migration, some of the next steps. Your question, Christina, right?
Just before we dive into having an agenda and taking notes and all of that, I just wanted to say in the board meeting, Roy and I, and then checking it with Steve, we're going to look at what's on Ghost and restructure. So if we have two instances, we could actually move pretty easily, copy paste, move the stuff that we do want on the new one over,
Right.
And really showcase that as a place where we have basic marketing information about Tech We Trust, and then we showcase member writings, and anything else about the co-op or how we work or all of that goes on. Is there somewhere in the portal where there's going to be a WordPress site where we can explain some of that stuff?
WordPress.
Yeah. We had talked about having the Ghost site be DigLife.com, about Tech We Trust marketing, and DigLife.coop being a WordPress site, which members would join, and maybe on the new Ghost we would have WordPress comments instead of discuss comments.
That's a bit confusing to me. We have to talk more about that, Jim. The way I envision the DigLife.coop now is the portal, right? I know it's a technical term, but it's an entry point into all of the services, right? It's not a specific WordPress service, it's all of the services.
Right, but couldn't the portal actually have a tab just up there? Sort of,
Yeah.
Home, projects, whatever, about. And then on that about, we could have web copy that shows why we do what we do, our principles, member resources, whatever.
I think that would be the blog service.
Right, a blog service. That's the service within the portal, within the other services, right? So there's no need to turn this into a WordPress site, right? Because then you take away all the functionality.
The public site, DigLife.coop, as opposed to DigLife.com, I guess they were thinking would be where you wouldn't have to sign in necessarily. Would be the, or it could be the WordPress site, which would be the community site.
Could we have stuff? Could we have content on a WordPress site at DigLife.coop, and portal.diglife.coop would power the other one, the portal?
I have to understand what the content is here, Christina, because it sounds more like this is content that's anyway on DigLife.com.
Right, which has totally confused people, and there's way too much on there. It's confusing. A lot of people who care strongly about trustworthy technology and responsible technology are not interested in co-ops or are not interested in how we work. They're not going to read through that stuff. That's more like a member resources, like about how we work, why we work the way that we do. We were going to put that. We've had several discussions about this. I'm a little confused at your confusion. We were going to split so that the DigLife.com was very clearly all about Tech We Trust, privacy, decentralization, equality, and trust. And then DigLife.coop would be about why we're a co-op, working out loud, self-organization, like the stuff that was confusing people that did not want to dive in there.
Right. Well, the DigLife.coop is a doing, right? So this is once you are a member and you need to know what can I do next. How can you support me and how can I support you guys? That's why I go to DigLife.coop, right? So now I need some services to fulfill what I have to do, right? Be that in finance, be that in marketing, be that supporting the Zoom sessions. You talked about the collective strategy that we want to develop. All of this stuff is now in to be found in DigLife.coop, right? And writing stuff obviously is just part of that, right? So if you want to develop a strategy, you need a place to write it down. Well, yeah, then we provide a space for that, right? Be that in a wiki space, be that in some other place. I don't know yet where that resides, right? Could be that WordPress is the place where you put these kind of conversations, right? I'm a bit hesitant though, because I see WordPress as a backend service now. Since I've learned about CVCRM, that uses WordPress as a backend service, I'm comfortable with that view, right? So if you have a front end to something that's you don't even look at, right? But you deal with all of the UI on the CVCRM side. If you want to enable something more than that for WordPress, to have members now go into WordPress and then, learn the WordPress interface, I think then you have a learning hurdle that you don't want to, give out to members, right?
Having learned both as a Muggle, Ghost is way easier. So that member blogging function is for sure. I would advocate for Ghost. But my point is, we have some content it's all about governance and it's really kind of member oriented, but you shouldn't have to log in to read it. If you're curious about it, you should be able to find it. And I thought we were splitting that to DigLife.coop and having some place that could live that's a little bit more clear.
Right.
So that DigLife.com is really all about tech we trust.
Yeah.
But that's website content that the Digital Life Collective is putting out. It's not a member posting to it at this point.
Right. So, the only task here, Christina, is to find a space for that content. That's all. And I'm saying I'm hesitant to use WordPress for that space because you immediately are in WordPress and you have to learn, all of these contextual menus. And there's so much stuff going on in WordPress that comes with it. Okay. That's the problem here. If it's just about, putting out some content for members to read, we can find a space for that.
But it's also for the public. It's not just for people who are logged in. Why are we a co-op? Our principles.
Yeah, that depends. That depends on the platform, of course. If that's a publishing thing, then it gets published through that portal to some public space. Okay, and that's where you access it. You're still not in the portal. If you want to members read that stuff, you still go to that place wherever it's published.
So if you wanted the main portal to be the domain DigLife.coop, we could put about.diglife.coop as a subdomain.
That could be an idea, right? That could be a space, actually. Right.
Okay. Adrian.
Yes, what Christina is talking about is very interesting to my project, to our HIE of One. We are now starting to plan for, selling or enabling this device for strangers. And we'd like to figure out how to benefit from the structure that is built into DigLife, if possible. I don't know exactly how to do that at all, but that's what's the next step, and how would we do that? We don't have any of these things that you guys are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That's good, because we're building it for people like you, I think, as much as the DigLife itself, yeah.
Should we add, Adrian, Joachim, can we add HIE of One as one of the projects that has a channel immediately in the news space, and then we can kind of grow it from there?
Totally love to see that, yeah.
Awesome. Philip has his hand up.
I just wanted to clarify the conversation between Joachim and Christina, but coming at it from a different way, just to see if I've understood it. We like Ghost because it's an easy platform to edit great content on, and it's dedicated to just publishing stuff, and it's therefore a great way for members to write great content on the topic of our world. And but at the same time, we need something like to keep on top of knowing who's who and how the membership fee goes to when renewals due, and actually discovering who other members are, because we have difficulty to discover who's even a member at the moment amongst ourselves. But CVCRM is headless in so much as it works with 2 or 3 CMS, I think, to provide the head for it, one of which is WordPress. The other is Joomla, I think, and there's another I can't remember. So at some point, we need a CMS for Civi CRM. Do we not? That was my understanding, I guess.
Right, that's part of the bundle, Philip. That's a simple installation of WordPress on Cloud Run as well as Civi CRM. So it's one piece that comes up there. And then we have CRM as a service, but not WordPress as a service. It's just using the Civi CRM front end.
I'll be around asynchronously, but I have to jump off for a call.
Okay, see you soon.
Okay, so what we're saying there is...
Just to clarify, Kim, if I have a profile, if I'm allowed to maintain my profile... I'm sorry, I broke up for a moment there. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
If I'm allowed to maintain a membership profile, courtesy of some integration with Civi CRM, what is the CMS behind the serves the web page that I'm using to maintain my profile?
That would be WordPress if we use that. Yeah.
Is that what you're saying, Joachim? That we would be using WordPress for that?
Well, I mean, you're using the Civi CRM interface for capturing the metadata about members, right? So there's sections and there's forms to fill out, and there's all this stuff you can drill down. All of this is enabled through the WordPress plugin, right? So you're not necessarily, using the standard WordPress functionality, but using the Civi CRM functionality to update your metadata.
So I'm a member and I've just logged in and I want to change my photograph. What's the thing that served that page?
Okay, that's actually, before we can answer that raises another question. I don't want anyone access to Civi CRM except a dedicated membership relationship group, okay? That's 2 or 3 people who could actually change that picture. Nobody else can do that.
Ah, right. How does the picture get there in the first place then?
That's to be determined, because the question is, the picture, does it come out of Civi CRM or does the picture come out of say Ghost authoring tool, right? So there are many sources for that, and we have to think about the purpose of the Civi CRM tool. What do we want to capture here? This is about establishing the longer-term relationships with our members, right? Making sure they're in the loop, making sure that when the dues are coming up, the sufficient reminders sent to the person, right? There's prospects coming in, right? So we're making sure we have the right people coordinated to reach out to these prospects, to become members too, right? That's the function of the Civi CRM tool, right? The other stuff that we're talking about, more of a profile, right? So high-level profile that we can use across other applications. I think that's not necessarily in Civi CRM. This could be part of, let's say, the onboarding process. So you, Philip, join the collective. We need to know 10 tags, 10 keywords about you, about your skill sets, let's say. We capture that somewhere, and we use that across applications, right? We can use that for our governance process. We can use that for, filtering some content, whatever it is, right? That's not necessarily part of the Civi CRM tool.
Because I guess I just would like the idea that I might be able to change my tags if I'm now interested in something else through my work.
Exactly right.
And the idea that, so in terms of the Ghost authorship, if 10% of our members ever get interested in writing a single thing, I'd be gobsmacked. May that actually be the case? But of course, then that leaves at least 90+% of people who have no reason to get a Ghost author page, upload a photograph, all that sort of stuff. It strikes me that if we want to go from 160 to 320 to 3,200, then at some point we have to allow people the ability to update their membership profile and make it and have it discoverable to all other members, not just the 3 people who are looking after the Civi CRM backend.
That's right. And exactly that's the reason why you don't want them to push into a CVCRM backend or even a ghost front end to say, hey, you have to become an author before we even capture information about you. This has to become part of the onboarding process. And the way I envision that is you join the collective, and the first thing is you go to DigLife.coop. Okay, at that point, the portal recognizes the first time you're going to access that co-op, and it recognizes, hey, we need some information about you. That is your information that you maintain, by the way, right? If you want to delete it, here's the button to delete it, but you maintain that. And we capture that information there. And that's the only space I can see so far where we can access 100% of the collective, right? I'm safe, I'm comfortable to say everybody will have to go through that onboarding process on DigLife.coop, right? For complete that process is step 1, 2, 3 here. And then we have the information we need, right? You don't have to go into a specific application or service to do that. You just do it on the portal itself.
Adrian?
Yeah, well, you've lost me here because I know I helicopter into these things, but I actually think in this case it's very appropriate and helpful to the discussion that Christina was having with Joaquin. The problem that I'd like to solve, and I'd love to solve it with DigLife, is how to onboard a new user of HIE of 1 with less friction while also getting them to become potentially a member of the cooperative of DigLife. So in other words, if I look at the sequence relative to what you guys are talking about, is somebody hears about HIE of 1, I don't know where, doesn't really matter. They get to a marketing page, like a web page, right? We don't have a web page now, even that. I mean, we have something, it's the dog's dinner from 3 years ago. Okay, then they decide that they're gonna pay for something, or they decide that they're gonna join a social group so they don't have to pay for something. But let's decide that they're gonna pay for support or pay for a gadget that we're about to sell or whatever. At that point, we have to capture them in a CRM type system. And there's an opportunity to use the collaborative, the cooperative, whatever, as that alternative to simply asking for their credit card. We could give them a choice. Do you want to use a credit card or do you want to do it with DigLife? And to us, it would be better if we would steer them into a path. Now, at that point, they haven't yet decided that they want to join DigLife or any other cooperative. They don't even think that HIE of 1 is necessarily a cooperative or a collective of any sort. They're going to be introduced to what we call decentralized information governance and all sorts of, dozens or hundreds eventually of different groups that are selling kidneys out of Pakistan. But that's a different issue. So I'm still trying to figure out how we can use the infrastructure that you guys are about to redo in order to bring members and to bring structure, because I don't want to be doing this infrastructure. I don't want to be doing the governance that we're doing here either around how to present ourselves. I just want to create the content and deal with the chat groups or whatever they are that are going to look like marketing. That's all I want to do. I don't even want to collect credit cards as long as people can get paid.
Yeah, I can totally see that, Adrian. And that's really, the collective has to be sort of an umbrella. It's a thin membrane. I don't want the perception of, whoa, we have to be joining this club, and they have these strong, ideas of what to do. No, it's the umbrella to say, hey, once you're part of this, you get enabled to have access to all of these services that you need to develop your own entity, right? So we want to make sure you have your self-sufficient entity within DigLife, right? And you can develop, and I'm often use the term incubate, right? So we're going to help you set up the services you need, right? Set up your website, set up your chat services, and still maintain your independence within the collective, right? So you're not merging into the collective and your identity